I can give to you in terms of answering questions. And for every question, just as they are divided into parts, the scores are also generally divided. So you can have more points, in a particular part of the question than has been assigned by the lecturer. So if you think that's the only part that you know and you want to write from Nigeria to Cairo, you understand what I mean? You hand all the marks in that part. And if that's the only part that you have treated well, out of the entire question, that's what you have marks for. Then you have lost marks in the other parts of the question. So if, for example, a question carries 15 marks, that part that you think is the meat of it may carry just only 7 marks. And when you want to answer a question, you just plunge into that part and you leave all the peripheries that are expected to more like garnish the question, then you will get 7 marks. If you not get 7 marks on 15, you will be wondering that how did it happen? So, but even though the question might show perhaps the meat of it, the crux of it, if you study very, very well, you'll find out that there are some aspects that you must also address that will make you to earn good marks. So, number one, most questions, I won't say all, but most questions require that you define a concept. Incidentally, I don't have any of I'm trying to see if I can come up with one of our legal system questions on my system. But I rushed out of a place to be able to take this lecture. If I put on my camera, you'll find out that I'm inside my car. But I don't want this lecture not to be taken at all. But if you give me a minute, let me see if I can get a legal system first semester question from my laptop. No. So, but basically, as I'm trying to do that, understand and remember that most questions will require you to define a concept. And concept also may be the main crux of the question that we are talking about. So have that at the back of your mind, that most questions will expect you to define. Now, if you are expected to define and you don't define, that question, that definition in itself may carry 2 marks or 3 marks, depending on the extent of definition or explanation of concepts that is required of you. So if you fail to I'm trying to call okay, if you said I can see one question there, maybe this would be okay. Okay, now, so definition, you must be able to define it. That definition explanation may have been assigned about three marks. So if you don't define, then it means that hello? Hello? Okay, but it looks like the network cut me off a while ago. Can you tell me when last you had me?
Yes, but
Can you tell me when last you had me?
So we were talking about most questions requiring that you define the concept.
Okay. Yes, I was telling you that most questions require that you define a concept. I don't know if you just give me a few minutes. I would log on to a Wi-Fi. I want to enter a place now so that I can have maybe a more stable network. I'll keep talking as I'm trying to do that. So the question just brought up on my laptop. You know, I want to read out the question to you again, and I'll tell you that that question is a part of the whole question. That is the A part of the question. Now, I'm going to read it out now. It says there is more than one canon for the interpretation of statutes or documents. However, regardless of the number, there is normally a starting point in every attempt at interpreting one. Discuss with certain cases that starting point. So can anybody volunteer? So just give me a summary of how you think this question should be answered. Do you have a volunteer?
So, please, can you repeat the question again?
What do you mean? Sorry?
Sir, please can you come again with the question?
Okay. Listen, there is more than one canon for the interpretation of statutes or documents. However, regardless of the number, there is normally a starting point in every attempt at interpreting one. Discuss with certain cases that starting point. So if you want to answer this question, how would you go about it? I want a volunteer. Any volunteer?
So I'd like to speak a few things about what you just said. So
Sorry?
basically, I'd like to volunteer to answer some part of the question you just stated.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, so like you said, it is very important to define the concept first. And the question you just read out is talking about statutory interpretation. So to go about the question, one, we need to define what a statutory interpretation is. Then they'll move on to state some examples of why statutory interpretation is very important in the legal system. Then moving on, they can now start to introduce some statutory interpretation, starting from the most important parts of statutory interpretation.
Okay, when you start, where will you end?
Well, it will end at the, like you said, the different interpretation of statutory interpretation. So it will end at probably, if you want to list out the interpretation, you can stop at like probably like list now 5 of it. Yeah.
Okay, good. It's a good attempt actually. It's a good attempt. I'm trying to change location now, so I hope I can do that within a short period of time. So, but I will continue to make the effort. So it's a good attempt, but I'll tell you that if you do it exactly that way, you will spend all your time on that question, more time than you are required to spend on it. Because the question says that you should discuss that starting point. It's not saying you should discuss all the tenets of interpretation. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So the question says discuss the starting point. So and see, one thing I didn't disclose to you is that, or I discussed it earlier, maybe you missed it, is that is the A part, 2 questions of 2 parts. So that is 1A. There is the other part of it, which is 1B. Now this question, which is 1A, all it requires to what you define, then list out the canons, because the question says there is more than one. You can see the way you interpret the question. The question says there is more than one, but there is one that is the starting point of documents. So the moment you misunderstand the question, you are going to write all the things to take all your time. So the question says there is more than one way of interpreting law, or but that there is one such that if you want to interpret any document, that is the place you are going to start. And there is no textbook. There's no textbook that you will read that will not tell you. If textbook is good and normal, that will not tell you that that's the starting point. And you all know that starting point, which is the literal interpretation. That is the starting point. If you want to interpret any document, that's where you start, because you have to look at it from the natural, using the natural meaning of the words that are used. That is the starting point. So that question limits you, one, to define the concept or principle. Then after you might have defined it, list out the canons of interpretation, because that shows that you know them. So after you have listed that, so just list. You won't need to discuss all those ones. You list them out and just touch them briefly if you have the time. You list them out. But the one that requires extensive discussion is only that I can bet you that you will have found almost all discourse that is required under that. But if you misinterpret it the way you have done, you want to discuss all the kinds of interpretation. By the time you are through, you won't have time. You'll be struggling to answer the second question. So that's why it's important that you should be able to interpret the question and what the lecturer really wants from you. So the question is very clear. I said, discuss the starting point of statutory interpretation. And if you just do it the way I'll just give it to you, at least that first part of it, which may, for example, if the entire score is 17, for example, that one may be 10 marks, and the question, the problem question may just carry maybe about 7 marks. So you can see it. So if you concentrate on that one, you may not even handle all the 10 marks. Meaning that at the end of the day, you may lose the remaining marks that other part of the question. So do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So then another problem that were identified is that okay, let me go ahead first before we talk about problem questions. In the good sense, we don't usually give problem questions, even though we do some of the time. No, another problem we have identified is that when some people, when they want to answer the questions, their introduction is much more extensive than the body of the work itself. If you have, number one, understand first the number of minutes that you have to answer a question. So if you have 35 minutes, for example, to answer a question, then you are using almost 15 minutes to do introduction. Then you mean that you know that you have already lost, because even though you understand the question very well, by the time you are getting around to the body of the question, your time is gone and you are struggling. See, we as lecturers, we are not out to just read anything. No. We want to read the written. And if we can go to the points directly, without doing a merry-go around the issues, then it's better for you. It's better for you than when you just want to tell stories. For example, some people, when they instead of eating the question directly, they will start to say, before I do this, some try to speak big grammar. This is not a paper publication, not an article, where you have liberty to begin to do all kinds of dramatic expression. If the question is, what is your name? It's very direct. Don't begin to say, before I tell you my name, there's need to elaborate. I don't just, you are wasting your time. So that's very, very also important, because it helps you to plan your time. So if you have a question that you have to use 35 minutes, and if you are good enough that you have already identified the path to the question, and you have done it correctly, then you find out that you probably have sufficient time to answer your questions. And for the questions, it's not about the volume, It's not about the volume, it's about the points. It's about the points. But some of the time, if you are too peremptory, if you summarize too much, you will also not be able to capture the point that the lecturer wants you to capture. So you must be smart enough to know when you are expected to summarize and when you are expected to be elaborate. But being elaborate does not mean you need to begin to repeat the same thing over and over again. That will make you lose time. And when you lose time, you are not able to capture entirely what you should give to the lecturer. That's another point. The other point I want to make to you is this. When you are answering questions, in the secondary school, the primary secondary school, we are taught about paragraphing. Because I'm giving you the tips that help you and also help the teacher. We know about paragraphing. And paragraphing means that for every paragraph, you make a point. You make a point. So if you are answering questions, for example, we are talking about this. Some people don't even know how to paragraph. You just write from line to line as if they are writing statement in police station. If you ever read police station, police will tell you that no, what's it now? No paragraphing. But that's police statement, and it has a reason. There's a reason for that. But when you are writing for exam or maybe even an essay, that paragraphing is very important. So if I give you a question, for example, that requires you to touch on 5 points. So I'm looking for each point in one paragraph. And I can tell you that the moment I see the point there, I will not even bother myself to want to see whether you have really discussed it in greater detail, except the question expects you to be able to discuss it in detail to show clear understanding. But basically, if you're able to make, even some people, I convince some people, they look at other people's work to even write those points. Sometimes they see hands on marks. So, but if you just write the points, in fact, if you write the point, and I can say about three or four lines after it, I mean, quickly I can because the moment I identify that point, quickly I know what to expect. So it's only when I don't see what to expect there that I will say, okay, you have made the point. If that point to hand you about 3 marks, for example, if I made the point and the explanation is not good, you can have one mark. At least you have made the point. But what's more important is that it allows the lecturer to see the point you are making very quickly. But some people, once they begin the paragraph, the next point is made in the midst of another paragraph, and lecturer struggles to identify those points. It doesn't make sense. So you must ensure that your points are paragraphs. That's very important. Also, before I forget, most of the questions will also require you to do some conclusion. So conclusion may also hand you about 2 marks. Sometimes it will be 3 marks, sometimes it can be 1 mark. But if you lose 1 mark, it's a loss to you. Because by the time all the marks are aggregated, you may not have enough to hand you good points, overall marks. So some questions require you to do a conclusion. So if you have introduction, you do a conclusion. Conclusion could just be your opinion. It may just be an opinion, formed from, arising from the body of your work. You don't know what conclusion means. So that also is very, very important. So people are disturbing us. If you call your colleagues to stop this interruption. Haruna Idunu Faria. Please, whoever is our friend should call out to stop.
Sorry, sir.
Please put off your microphone now. Are you not one of us here? Yes. Stop
I
disturbing
don't
us.
know. Mute.
Don't worry, just mute yourself. Let's make progress.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So before we move on to looking at problem questions, do you have any questions that you want to ask? Maybe it can help me to bring up anything that I
Yes,
think
sir.
you should know that. Yeah, please go ahead. Yes, ask the question if you have one.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, all you've just mentioned, is it applicable to 100 level students too?
Of course. Don't they answer questions? Or because you're under 100 level, it means that we should give you concessions not to answer questions properly? They do. For example, 100 level questions, 100 level students also do legal methods. I believe we are in a legal system class now, not legal methods.
Yes.
Yes.
Aha.
The 100 level, yes.
So legal system is for year 2 students now, not for year 1 students. So why are you?
Year 1 from other department like mass comma, yes.
What? Sorry, what did you say?
Year 1 from other departments in Faculty of Social Science.
Okay, of course.
They are in this class.
Of course, you are taking this. Okay, I understand now. They are taking the same questions now. If you are not considered to be good enough to take the course, it won't be part of your courses. So there's no discrimination. Even our constitution does not allow us to discriminate. If you are in year 1, you are in year 1, and you are studying together, and you are also taking lectures together with your colleagues. So anything I'm saying here applies to you. So, but that's not the kind of question I'm expecting. I'm expecting questions from you to interrogate how you should answer questions, not whether it applies to you or does not apply. It applies if you are in this class. Whatever I'm saying applies to you. Yes.
Excuse me, sir.
Question?
Yeah, I believe the reason why she's asking is because we add that most of our 100 level exams would be objectives. That's why she's asking that. Would it be in objective or theory?
Okay. Well, that's another. If that's the case, then take it that whatever you are also learning here will be useful to you subsequently. That is if our questions this time around will be objective.
Okay, sir.
Are you with me? So whatever you have learned now will also help you in future, maybe year 2 or year 3, as the case may be. So I can't be sure whether what you are going to have now is objective or whether it's going to be essay. I have not heard about it anyway. That's going to be objective. So I will advise you to just keep an open mind and prepare for everything. Because now you are coming into the school to take exams now. Are you doing online? Have you been told that the exam will be online?
No, sir, it's physical.
So if it's physical, it's very likely that it's going to be our standard exam. The way we normally set it. So it's going to be very likely. My colleague will be able to confirm to you if you are going to be expecting objective, but I don't have that information. And I think to be on the safe side, prepare your mind for essay questions. But if you now have objectives, then it means you are lucky because objective means that. Sorry?
System is 2 units. It's not.
I didn't get you.
Their legal system is 2 units. The objective one from FSS, not the standard 4 unit legal system we are in the Faculty of Law. Mr. Lamita just said they should be part of the class so they can just gain the knowledge. They are not going to read the same exam as us.
Okay, those ones are not. Okay, in that case, just take away the lesson that you can take from here. It gives you an advantage if you are not going to be doing our own legal system. So okay, I understand now the students from other departments. Well, we do objectives because of the population, But whichever way, take your cue from this. So if you prepare well for something like this, if your objective comes, it means you are going to crush it. But that one is EJ, and I believe you will do well. So, but for those who are our mainstream students, what I'm telling you is very, very important. So, and I expect the questions from you, but I've given you the hint. Number one, most times, if not all, there will always be the need to define the concepts. In this question that I'm using for you now, some people will not even define what is establishment of status. They'll just start by talking about, in fact, some of them will begin to list literal rule. They begin to talk, the golden rule. So if you do that, you have already lost the scores for the definition. And at the end of the day, too, you should also be able to do a short conclusion. Who's Ubi Shani Hawaii? You are disturbing us wherever you are. Okay, so if you don't have any questions as far as that is concerned, then let us look at problem questions. Problem questions will not apply to those who are taking objectives. I would just advise people that read your books, master the points. Some of these objective questions can be misleading, even though the answers will be there. So you have to read very well, master the points, so that you can be able to distinguish, Paul from Barnabas. Please, 1 minute. Yeah. Okay. How we are together? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so I think this class is basically more for the mainstream law students, not for the people from because I'm not going to repeat lectures that have been given. No, that's not my job here. Once you have had your lectures, you just go back and do your revision. So my job here is to guide people on question answering, and there's no way you can guide people who are doing objective. So objective is you either know it, you don't know it. But when it comes to essay questions, and question questions, you can be guided as to how to go about it. So now I have a second. That is the B parts. The B parts of the question that I just gave you the A part. You can see that the A part, is set in a manner that does not require you to begin to discuss all the canons of interpretation. And if you end up discussing all, it will take your entire time, such that you won't have time for the second one. So part of what you should learn. Who is this will be for you now? Who is this person? Is our host in? Can somebody meet him? Is the host in here? Who is this person? I think we should provide sanction for people who get careless when we are having lectures. So now the second question, the problem question. Can somebody call this guy, or whether it's guy or lady, and tell the person to mute? I don't know. I'm unable to cope. I'll continue. Sorry, this guy is in mainstream law. Class rep. And the class rep hear me. I need a response, please.
Zero, not zero, sir.
That person is in mainstream law. Sorry?
No, in law, sir. The person is not.
Maybe next time we don't bring them together for this kind of exercise, because somebody who wants to do objective will not be very, very serious. See this. I think the person just put on the phone and they walked away. Okay, I'm just struggling to ignore this person, but it's difficult. Okay, the second, the B parts, is there, and part of what I want you to learn is that before you start answering your questions, and I've told you about the importance of assigning time to the question you want to answer. So if, for example, you have a question that has 2 or 3 parts, that will guide you as to how many minutes you are expected to spend on each of those parts. So if, for example, you have a question, if for example you have a question that has 3 parts,
Sorry, sir.
and you have to answer the question in 35 minutes, then you know that you have to divide your time by 3 and ensure that you answer the questions within the time that is allowed. Now the question that I have here reads as follows, and I hope you get attentive. The chairman of Akauke local government has received countless complaints from citizens of residents of the local government of molestation and harassment by women of easy virtues on the streets in their solicitation for sexual patronage. In order to curb the practice, the local government council passed a bylaw prohibiting solicitation for sex on the streets. Kabwa, a commercial sex worker, stood on the balcony of her house to solicit for sex. She was arrested and charged with an offense under the bylaw. She is convinced she has not breached the law and has consulted you for legal advice. Advise her. So let us see. If you want to answer that question, I need a volunteer. Please just paraphrase what you think is expected of you. So, I need volunteers. There's no volunteer. I'm with you. Yes,
Okay,
please
sir.
go ahead, Shadi.
Yes, sir. Yeah, so I think that question is actually talking about the mischief rule of interpretation.
Okay.
Yeah, so if I'm to attempt the question, I will start by explaining the various rules of interpretation and how they apply to different situations before moving to the mischief rule of interpretation. Now, on getting to the mischief rule of interpretation, I'm going to explain um, the rule and also state the exceptions. Now, one of the exceptions I'm going to state is what is the purpose that law was given? What is the purpose? Because from the question, it's possible that when she was soliciting for money or maybe soliciting for sex, she was not, or maybe on the street, she was like at the balcony of the house, and the law did not say the balcony of the house. The law actually stated the street, but she was not on the street. So what I'm going to look at is what was the purpose that the law was given? What was the purpose? So you soliciting from the balcony of your house, has it made that requirement or has it solved that problem? Now I'm also going to look at soliciting from that place, soliciting from the balcony of your house. What happens to the law? What happens to the purpose of that law? Because if the purpose of that law is not being addressed, that means the law was just that means the law is not even valid. So what I'm going to look at if I'm to address that question or to attempt that question is the purpose in which the law was given. And the purpose that the law was given was so that street solicitation or maybe sex solicitation from anywhere can be stopped. It doesn't matter where the person is soliciting from, whether it's from the balcony of her house, whether it's from inside her house, whether it's from anywhere. So I'm going to look at the purpose of that that law. So that is the approach I'm going to take. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. Say that was Charlie that just answered the question, have you? Charlie Hubong.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Charlie. Yes, sir. Charlie.
Okay, good. You can drop your hand now. Drop your hand now. Is there anyone who agrees or anyone who does not agree with the way he has explained how he answered the question? Is there anyone? Anyone? Okay, Taiwo, let's hear from you. Taiwo, let's hear from you now. Taiwo. I thought Taiwo raised up his hand just now.
Hello, good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening. Please, let's hear from you, Taiwo.
Sir, what I want to say is I didn't really hear the question you read, but the question you read seems to be like in pari material with the case of Smith versus Hobbs. So I just want to say that we can use that case as an authority for backing up the issue in this question. So what happened in Smith and Ox was the court, they applied the mischief rule in trying to interpret the Strict Offence Act of 1959. So the purpose of that Offence Act was to prevent like people that soliciting in the streets, that is people that stay on the street and advertise themselves for personal gains like prostitutes. So the prostitutes that were in the Bankoni were held to have breached the provisions of this act because they are corrupting, or should I say, they are corrupting moral value. So the court, in interpreting this act, they went beyond just the literal appearance of the law, but the purpose of enacting these laws. So what I want to say is mischief rule, right? It goes beyond like just the surface meaning of the statute. It looks at the mischief, because mischief means like issue, problem, which the law seeks to provide a solution to. So we can also use another case that we can use for this is Royal College of Nursing versus DHS. So the mischief rule was also applied in this case where the medical supervisor, the nurses, right, that administer abortion, they were in court to check whether or not they breached the Abortion Act of 1967. And the purpose for that act was to ensure that where there are not like medical, so where there's no good medical supplies to aid abortion, right? Like, I don't really know how to explain that part, but I feel like this Royal College of Nursing versus DHS is also like for mischief. So yes, sir, that's what I want to say.
Yeah, okay. You have both of you have tried, but part of the problem is that when you answer questions, you answer the question as if you are answering a post essay questions, and not a problem, not a problem question. So basically, when you have this kind of question, number one, you identify that the question has to do with the canon of interpretation known as the SIP. Are you with me? No, because you first identify the area of the question. Are you with me? Then you will explain what is the SIP. You understand me? You will explain it. Now, Charlie Akabogu, or I can't recall if that's his surname as Obong, Charlie Obong, or Ubong, as the case may be. Your approach will make you waste a lot of time, because in your own case, you still want to go through identifying all the canons of interpretation, discussing them before you now dovetail or mischief rule which is applicable here. Now, look at the part A. Part A has already made you to at least outline all the canons of interpretation. And that part A has now made you to discuss, in some cases, the starting point, which is the literal rule of interpretation. So part B is very specific. Are you with me? It does not ask you to discuss all the canons of interpretation. When you begin to do that, you are wasting your time. You are wasting your time. When you have problem questions, the problem question I will expect to identify the principle of law that is applicable. When you identify the principle of law, you will now explain it or define it and explain it as much as you can. If you have the decisions of courts, you also put it there to explain that concept. Are you with me? Then when you have now done that, then you now apply that law to the facts in the question. In this case, the law is solution for sex on the streets. This woman, commercial sex worker, stood on the balcony of her house, soliciting for sex. So the question is, as the woman breached the law, you want to advise the woman. You now advise the woman based on your own explanation or exposition of the law. And when you are doing the exposition of the law, you must do it well, because receive rule says that you have to look at the position of the law before and position of the law now, or that what is that mischief, that this law was promulgated to take care of. So that takes you back to the history. What was the problem that this law was now promulgated to take care of? So now you now find out that, and when you are doing exposition of the law, what the law says is that in interpretation, you have to advance the remedy, and suppress the mischief. You see, when you use some of these words that the judges used in the locus classicus, it gives you more marks, because there's no way you discuss mischief rule without using the clause advance the remedy. You interpret the law in a manner to advance the remedy and suppress the mischief. So what is the mischief? The mischief is solution for sex. And it does not matter. Even though Kabua may argue that, okay, I was just soliciting for sex from my balcony and not on the streets. And not on the streets. But the purpose of the law is to stop solicitation of sex. So in interpreting this law to advance the remedy and suppress the mischief, this person will be liable under the law. Then you now bring the relevant case, because some of the times when we give you problem questions, we pattern the facts after the facts of some established case. So you now tell us that the facts of this case are almost on all fours with this one. In that case, so did this, so did this. And the court ruled that this act will also come under the law, and that what the court did was to do interpretation based on the mischief rule. Because if you interpret it based on the literal rule, the woman will not be found liable. But the literal rule will not suppress the mischief. That's why the mischief rule comes in. So by the time you do that, you are true. You could do all these ones even in one page or two of the question the answer script that you have, and you are true, and you hand almost all your marks here, if not all. You understand? So most times question A and B, most times they are related. Question A expects you to do some theoretical or essay discussion. Question B expects you to apply the law. This question could equally have been set in a manner that what you need to discuss will be the literal rule. It could have been set in a manner to expect you to discuss just the golden rule. So you must understand it, because in answering questions, apart from understanding the ambit of the question, because the ambit is very important. Otherwise, you will begin to write things that are unnecessary, and you are going to waste a lot of time. One has read a lot of scripts that you find out that the person will now be writing sense towards the end of the answer. Meanwhile, you will see that the person didn't really have enough time to write it, but the person has spent a lot of time writing either semi-sense or nonsense at the beginning of the question. So these are things that you need to to take into consideration. So when you're asking parallel questions, it's targeted. Don't begin to discuss the things that are not embedded in that question. When you do that, you are taking yourself outside of the ambit of the question, and you are wasting your time, and it won't have you any marks. Another thing that people do when they answer questions, which I also want to point out, is this: when the question is asked, when the student is not diligent enough to understand the ambit of the question and to delimit, so that your answers only come, in response to the question. The student says, "I'll just write everything, and the lecturer will be taking his own there." I'm sure you all know about this type. Taiwo, please put down your hand, except you want to say something else. Put down your hand, please. Drop your hand. Thank you. No. So the student says, "Let me just write everything." The man will just will pick his own there. Indeed, the man will pick his own. But that's where you find the difference between somebody that gets a 5, an A, and someone that gets a 1, E. Because you write it. Adegbori Deborah, are you in a disco club? Please don't disturb us now. Adegbori Deborah, don't disturb us. When you are in class now, you must be sure that you are checking your phone to make sure you are not making any mistake of muting. Yeah. So it's not, you can write everything, but it will reflect on the mark. That's why it means that you are not diligent enough. You don't even know what you are doing, or you just feel, okay, this question is in the area of statutory interpretation. For example, question 1 now, the only thing I ask you to discuss is the starting point, which is literal, and you are discussing everything. You can't ask us for everything. Then at the end of the exam, you say, I read very well, and I wrote very well. You could have read, but you didn't write very well. No? So those are the issues that I think you should put into consideration when you're answering your questions. I was speaking about paragraphing, making your questions, your answers very clear, point by point. If you are giving me 10 points, I'll be looking out for the points. Once I see the points, I'm not bothered to read the thing. I'll just take it. It's gone. It's taken. It's gone. It's taken. It's taken. Therefore, people who don't have very good handwriting, God will help you. When I say good, I don't mean that it should be beautiful, but legible as much as possible. Make your handwriting legible so that the teacher can read what you have written. It's very, very important that we should be able to read what you have written. If we are unable to read it, it may affect your scores. So that's very, very, very important. So any question? Then let me also give you some hint. Your answer sheets, for those who are not doing objective, read your instructions very well. The instructions are written at the front of the answer sheet. There are a lot of the things that will make noise during implication. You should not be happy. You say, write legibly on both sides of the paper. That's what you should do. Then this one is very important. Begin each answer on a fresh page. It's not that we don't penalize some of these things. Somebody begins number 1, writes first, second page, gets to the middle of third page, finishes number 1. Then on that same page, the person begins number 2. It doesn't make sense. It does not accord. It does not accord with the instructions, because people just collect answer sheets, and you don't follow the instructions. It's not ideal. Then, if you want to write, if you write a rough works, for example, it's advised that write this at the back of the question paper. Use the last page that you are not required to write on. But even if you want to write it on one of the pages, make sure that after you have finished with it, you cross it out so that the teacher does not take it as part of your work. You know, that's very, very, very important. Because if you do that, at the point the child gets confused, not even sure whether it's part of your or not. Then when you enter the exam, instructions, make sure you write your number, matric number. What we do, we give you the answer script first, even before the question papers come. That's for those who get to the exam early enough. If you don't get to the exam early enough, by the time you come, you have both your answer sheet and question paper, and you are expected to start immediately. You are losing time. So the time that you should normally use to just answer the question, you first use to be filling out the information at the front of the answer sheet. Make sure that you write your matric number and write it very clearly. If you have tiny handwriting, for the purpose of writing matric number, make sure that you print it and let it be clear. Don't let your 1 look like 7. And don't let your 7 look like 1. Some of the times, somebody's score may be recorded for another person. Yes, it does happen because we only record what we can see. Then when you are writing your matric number, at the front of the paper, we always stamp Faculty of Law on it. Make sure you write your number away from that ink. Because when you write across that ink, sometimes there's confusion as to what you have written. So let it be written. Then if you use extra sheets, make sure you put your matric number on the extra sheet. And the reason is this. Your extra sheet is supposed to be tied to your answer script. Now, when you are tying it, you don't tie it to the back, not behind the answer. You put it at the end of the answer sheet. That is the place where you can write, so that the answer sheet, the back page of the answer sheet comes after your additional paper that you have used, not at the back. In that way, the possibility of your extra sheet getting thrown off in the course of carrying the answer sheet around is limited, it's reduced. But even if it's thrown off for any reason, then if once you have your number on it, then it will be recovered. So, and it can be taken care of accordingly. So these are these little tips that I have for you. That's not.
So I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Sir, I don't know if you already answered this, but for the mischief rule, did you say that for the first paragraph, you can just go straight into defining mischief rule, like giving no backstory? And I wanted to ask, isn't a thesis statement very important in an introduction? Like, how do we
Sorry,
put it?
I didn't. Can you start again? I didn't get the other part of your foundational statement.
Okay, did you say for when we're answering that mischief rule question, the second part, did you say we can just jump straight into defining mischief rule and then the purpose of it before we do the application? Or can we do something like maybe a very short definition of statutory interpretation, then the 3 major rules, then we'll say something like, oh, this essay is going to focus on mischief rule and its application to maybe the case or something. Like, how do we go about putting a thesis statement in our introduction?
Okay, maybe you were not listening. Thank God you prepared yourself that whether maybe I've spoken about this before. I'm sure you know I've spoken about it before, but you want a clearer explanation. So you are using what is called agbari, but I understand. Now, let me explain to you. I've explained before. When you have questions, a question with 2 parts, most times, not all the time, one part covers an aspect of that topic, most times, while the other part covers another aspect. So in the first part, you will have found yourself maybe explaining most of the concepts. Are you with me? Now, the second one may be limited to just one of it, where you are expected to make application. Are you with me? So you don't, when you are doing the second one, you don't have to begin to repeat all those ones again, because you have done it already and you must have shown your understanding of those concepts. Like in this case, it does not even expect you to discuss in detail all the canons of interpretation. The question says there is more than one canon of interpretation, meaning that there's no way you not discuss the rest. But you cannot discuss this in great detail as you discuss the one that the question is on it directly. It says, however, regardless of the number, there is normally a starting point in every attempt at interpreting. Now say discuss the desired cases, that starting point. So that discuss is the main question there. So everything you say before that one is just foundation. And when you are laying the foundation cannot be higher than the body of the work. So this one says there is more than one, meaning that you must tell us the others apart from one. You must tell us everything. No, but now says discuss the starting point. That is the one you now discuss. So you'll find out that in that one you have touched on almost all the canons of interpretation, even though the one you discuss is the starting point, which is the literal rule of interpretation. But you will have shown understanding of the other ones, that you know this, you know this. Golden rule is this. Maybe one or two lines. You know this, you have done that. So you don't need to go and be talking about the cases or the application for this one, but the question does not expect you to do that. But it expects you to only discuss the starting points. That's the meat of that question. Then the question 2 now centers specifically on one. And the way you know it is the problem that has been put before you to solve. The question does not ask you to be looking around for what for example, if you have a case like this in court, you not begin by telling the court that you have this, you have that, you have that. No, you just tell the court the law that applies to the facts, and you just apply it. So for the second one, you just go ahead to that. This question brings up the issue of the kind of interpretation of the mischief rule. You are telling us exactly what you know and your name. So if for example you have made mistake in identifying the kind of interpretation that is applicable to the facts, then you know that by the time you apply the facts, you may come to the wrong conclusion. But if you have made the right choice as to the kind of interpretation that is applicable, then the application to the facts will be very clear. So you don't need to go and be talking about now even the reason why you must explain that canon is because in the first question, you are not expected to explain it. The first question does not require you to explain in details the rule. So that first question has limited you to explain in details the literal rule. And we decided specifically not to say starting point, not to say literal rule, because everybody will know literal rule. But whoever has not studied that aspect of the course very well to know that when you want to begin to interpret documents, the starting point is literal rule. The person will never be able to answer that question. So that person will be going round and round, round and round, round and round. You understand? So it's very deliberate. When I said the question, so because if I'm teaching, I'm sure I taught the topic. That's why I said the question on it. I will tell you right from the beginning that the starting point, for the interpretation of any document is the literal rule, where you look at only the words in their natural meaning. Chicken. And once so if you miss that issue of starting point in the lecture room, and you did not also take that point in the textbooks or in the notes that you have read, there's no way you answer this question very well. You only end up discussing all the whatever. And the introductory parts, for example, if this question will carry 10 marks, for example, the introductory part where you just mentioned all the canons, maybe you want 2 marks or 3 marks. The remaining will be about 7 marks. And if you don't know which one is the starting point, you end up discussing every one of them. I'm sure some people did it like that. Don't discuss all the canons of interpretation, but the only one that you hand mark for will be that starting point. And if you have taken your time to discuss everything, it means that you can't discuss the one I will discuss in as much detail as I want. That's why I put with side cases. So you have to bring up cases to back it up. So the cases, I didn't make the point. The cases will also be marked. And you, if it's expect that you discuss two cases, I say someone discusses two cases, you will earn 3 marks or 4 marks for that. And out of 10, you discuss only one, or you not discuss any case, or you took your time discussing cases and all that. By that day, maybe you get 3 over 10. And if you are not smart enough to have defined statutory interpretation, which I've given 2 marks, it is lost. If you not list there, it is lost. Like this one, I might have given definition 2 marks. I might have given mentioning of the other canons 2 marks. Then discussing starting point, maybe 6 marks. So if you don't do definition, you have lost 2 marks. You don't pinpoint the others, you have lost 2 marks. Even if you discuss them in details, more than what I expect you to do, you can't have more than 2 marks because you have done more than what I expect. So the remaining 6 marks will be for discussing the literal point, the literal rule. And you must emphasize for me why it is the starting point. So that is the thing. The second one is very direct. It's a problem question. When you have problem questions, you must understand the question very well, whether it expects you to begin to discuss all other things or just to apply the law to the problem that is before you. Because that's what we do in law. You address problems. You address a client comes before you, it gives you the facts, and you say, okay, this is the law that applies to it. And that's the law you take on. In your mind, you ruminate about all the laws. You are ruminating because you want to make up your mind what law really applies. But you don't ruminate into the courtroom. It's only the law that you have decided is applicable that you are going to use. What court has time for you to do theory? When you can just practicalize and take care of what you need to do. So basically, that's it. I hope it's clear to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. And that question before we close up the class for the day.
Finally.
Yes, whoever wants to talk. Somebody's trying to talk or just an interruption. Okay, there's another question. Perhaps we can call it a day. But let me see. Then let me also advise you, don't be writing all this testing language, that DAT. Please avoid it. This formal language education. Write English language, the way you are supposed to write it. Forget about all your colloquial communication, all your Instagram slangs, all those things. No, they don't come to the classroom. You can use them outside to make money. That's the language of commerce on the streets, but not in your exam hall. So also be mindful of that. What else? I can't think of any other thing that I think you should know. I can't think of any. So I think it's going to be a convenient point to round off the class today. So I thank you all for coming, and I wish you the best of luck in the exam. Thank you very much. God bless you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
tó bá ti jáde jáde mọ̀ láyé kí ló dé náà wá wọ́n pè é bí ó wá gánú sí bí báyìí ọ̀yẹ̀ kan ti sílẹ̀ jọ sílẹ̀ that's not for people it's called easy but you can't study outside Nigeria pass the next month that might be rain